Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, our worlds are in danger as we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Transformers Legacy Titan class Cybertron universe Metroplex. Probably one of the hottest items to grace Transformers Legacy, and dare I say the boldest. This is our first non-G1 inspired Titan class that we've seen ever since this scale class launched way back in 2013. So definitely really excited to actually check this guy out. As we take a look here at the packaging, we've got a really cool image of Metroplex smashing up both Kickback and Inferno, and as we come around here to the back of the box, as you guys can see, we get some really cool product shots of Metroplex in both robot mode, combat mode, and in the excavator mode. So with all that being said, let's crack this guy open and see how awesome he actually is. And so here we have the Cybertron universe Metroplex, and overall this is actually a really nicely done looking figure. I personally have always been a huge fan of the Cybertron Metroplex design. I thought the original toy was pretty cool, whilst I never sadly owned it. Judging by some of the reviews that I've seen online, it looked to be pretty sick, and this guy is no exception. This is a really nice update, not only in terms of the design, but also when in comparison to that original toy. Now, considering this guy is enormous, we're going to be doing things slightly different in today's video. Usually we'd start off by going over the detail, but instead we're going to be covering accessories, and this Metroplex comes with one of the biggest and coolest weapons that I think we've ever seen for a mainline Transformer. It is this enormous chainsaw thing. Now, the detailing on this is fantastic. As we actually take a look at the blade itself, you can see an amazing amount of paint has been applied to this, and I also think the sculpt work is super cool. Now, this can rotate. As you guys can see, it does have a built-in ratchet joint, which I think is really nicely done, and as we come down here to the midsection, you can see loads of paintwork as well as sculpted in detail. I actually really like how he has these handles. It kind of makes me wish that sometimes I could use this to take down some of those haters in the comments. I'm joking, I love everybody over on the channel, but still, as you guys can see, we get some nice detail as we come down here to this lower section, and we get this huge bucket scoop claw thing that you'll see more of when we get him transformed up into excavator mode. Now, one thing worth mentioning is that this is our most expensive Titan class figure yet, and sadly he doesn't include drill bit, and there's no Cybertron planet key. Now, personally, the planet key doesn't bother me that much, considering that we've moved on from all of those gimmicks that we used to see way back in the day, but I do wish they could have given him drill bit. Here's hoping we can see an upcoming core class of that character in the future. But nevertheless, this is a really cool accessory. It can be held in various different ways, although the biggest issue I have with it is that Metroplex doesn't hold it all that well at all. So we do get this section here at the top, which is on a ratchet joint. It can also swivel left to right, and there is a tiny cutout that is supposed to peg into a slot here on the inside of the hand. Now, truth be told, at least in terms of my own personal experience, I have found this to be an absolute nightmare, not only to get it installed, but for the character to actually hold it. So as I just showcase this, you're supposed to just align that up, wrap the fingers and the thumb around, and whilst in this almost kind of staff position, it does work pretty nicely considering the vast majority of the weight is actually touching the ground. I just think in terms of any kind of dynamic pose, this thing is just going to fall out. As you guys can see, it takes next to nothing to actually dislodge this, so that's a shame. I'll be sure to showcase in just a second a slightly more dynamic way of how this guy can hold him, or alternatively, much like the original toy, you can come around here to the back, and we do get two clips here and here that will peg into these two notches. Now, I thought this was a great callback to that original Cybertron toy, but just to showcase how this works, so you just snap that there into the top, and then this section here into the base, and there you have Metroplex with that chain weapon slung over his back, looking so cool. And considering this guy's got so many heavy duty ratchet joints, I don't worry about him toppling over or being too top heavy whatsoever. Or alternatively, after quite a few minutes of messing around, you can actually get this guy holding this with both hands, which looks awesome, but to be quite honest is way more hassle than it's worth. I do definitely wish that there was a slightly better range where the hands were concerned, but definitely he does look so cool whilst wielding this, and it's undeniably one of the most badass Metroplex designs that personally I've ever seen. Now, with the accessory out of the way, let's take a look at the main event himself, Cybertron Universe Metroplex, and this is a super cool looking Titan. So as far as the detail and paint is here for the head, I think this looks fantastic. A really nice looking sculpt. You can see how we've got the blue antennas at the top, we've got a really nice face sculpt too, and this guy has some awesome light piping. So if you actually do get some direct light behind the head, as you guys can can see, that really will bring this guy to life. And considering he's the most expensive Titan, I would have absolutely loved had they given him some kind of electronic feature in the head just to truly bring him to life. But this is something you can do if you want to, and there'll no doubt be various different third-party upgrade kits that will actually enable us to put an LED in the head. But that looks so cool. You can actually open the mouth, which I think creates for a slightly bizarre look, but it is definitely an option. As we come down here to the chest piece, as you guys can see, a very nice design. I just think the Cybertron designs in general were so cool, and there is a pretty decent amount of paint. You can see we've got that massive red section smack bang in the center of the chest, some nice metallic gold, blue, and red. I think the shoulders look really nice. We've got various different pistons and hydraulics going on for these sections, the Autobot logos, and even as we come around here to the back, you'll see these more when we get him transformed up into combat mode, but we actually do get the white cannons, which I thought was so awesome, and they haven't skimmed out on the detail here either, so that's all looking to be really sweet. As we take a look here at the arms, I think all of that detail looks cool. Even here for the forearms, we've got some nice metallic silver, the treads here on the back as well as the hands, and something which I thought was slightly interesting in terms of a design choice, he actually has what I can only describe as Wheelie from Revenge of the Fallen as his crotch. Now I have no idea as to whether or not this was intentional, but that kind of looks like Wheelie when he's mad and Wheelie when he's sad. But this too has also been painted and sculpted super nicely, and as we come down here to the lower section, much like the majority of these legacy figures, we get a fantastic amount of sculpted in surface detail and some really nice looking paint. I think the foot design also is really well done. We've got the buckets at the back, a super cool sleek design here at the front. In all, he's just a fantastic looking figure. Now in terms of articulation, Cybertron Metroplex is packed load full of it. He's probably one of our most articulated Titans, and in a way really is a game changer. So for the head, we do actually get an extendable neck joint which allows him to look down at fantastic range as well as all the way up. It can also rotate left to right. I do kind of wish this was on a ball joint so we could have had him tilting side to side. As mentioned previously, we do get a hinge joint here at the mouth. Now the shoulder ratchets are super tight, and at least on my copy I have found them to kind of disengage the transformation joint. So for example, if we take this here and bring this forward, it works fine. It's a really heavy duty ratchet, you can rotate it the full 360, but as we bring it back, 9 times out of 10 it will actually detach. Of course it's not doing it on this side due to me being on camera, but if I just show it here on this side, as you can see, as soon as I bring that back, it just pops this entire section clean open. So my recommendation would be to kind of grip these two components and then shift the shoulder, as once again it's just way more hassle than it's worth. We do get 2 hinge joints out to the sides, both on ratchet joints, so these big shoulder pads can hinge up, and then you can also take this white bicep section and hinge this here all the way out, which is fantastic. We do get a full rotation here at the bicep, also on a ratchet joint, 90 there on a ratchet joint for the elbow, as well as a rotation here at the lower section of the forearm, which I thought was awesome. The wrist can rotate the full 360, the thumb can open and close, as so can these 4 fingers, but I do wish this was slightly more dynamic so that we could have actually got a proper grip on his badass excavator tool. And then as it comes here to the torso, this piece of articulation is just absolutely to die for. This is the first Titan class figure ever to have an ab crunch. So what I mean is, if you bring this panel here forward, we can crunch this entire section all the way, which I just think is fantastic. It allows you to get him into so many dynamic poses. Metroplex in Transformers Cybertron was always hunched over as well, so I just think that is a really nice attention to detail. We can also crunch this back. We do get a full rotation here at the waist, also on a ratchet joint, an articulated wheelie crutch. Hips are also on ratchet joints, so these can kick out to 90. They can also kick back to 90, kick out to the sides, which is wicked. Rotation here on a ratchet at the thigh, 90-degree bend here at the knee on a ratchet joint. And then as we come down here to the legs, unless you disengage the transformation joint, you really don't get much out of this, but we can actually pivot the foot forwards and backwards, and it can rock side to side. So overall, in terms of articulation and design, by far one of the coolest Titan class figures that I think Hasbro have ever put out, and a fantastic update on one of the coolest Metroplex designs of all time. Now, taking a very quick look here at some size comparisons, we have our Cybertron Universe Metroplex compared alongside the Siege Optimus Optimus Prime, as well as the recently released Velocitron Cybertron Override. And as you guys can see, a massive figure, and I actually think is pretty in scale with some of these characters. And I did try and give Optimus Prime the big chainsaw, but sadly he just cannot hold it, unlike in the show. But yeah, this looks fantastic, and I can only hope that going forward we can see more Transformers Cybertron characters injected into the main line. Here for some Titan scale comparisons, we have our new Metroplex alongside Omega Supreme, the original Transformers Titan class Fall of Cybertron Metroplex, and finally the recently released Transformers Legacy Commander class Menasor. And here heeding the call of the core class Optimus Prime. Now turning to transformation, to kickstart things off, what you'll want to do is take these antenna pieces and shoot them to the back. We can then rotate the head all the way around, take this mask piece, detach that, and rotate these sections here all the way around, and I guess we can spin around back again just to make sure that all of this here is closed up. Now for robot mode, the neck joint is shifted back, but for combat / worker mode, you are going to want to shoot it forward, so that is something worth bearing in mind. We can then come around here to the back, take these grey sections, pull those forwards, and these slots will now be occupied via these tabs, so just snap them in there. What we can then do is take this chest unit, pull this piece forwards, and then take this section and just hinge that in like so. Come down here to the arms, take the forearms, hinge this section up, rotate the fists in, and then this huge tab will peg into a slot which is situated on the underside of this, and it can be easier said than done to line it up, but just shoot that in there, come round to this side, and you guys guessed it, rinse and repeat. So fold all of this up, and then just snap that in there. Now we can come back up to the torso. You're going to want to take this entire assembly, utilize that ab crunch, and just hinge this here all the way down, which I actually think is one of the coolest aspects of the conversion. We can then take these turrets, flip those forwards, and take this head joint and rotate this entire piece all the way around, just like so. What you'll then want to do is take these sections, and they will go forwards, and do the same here for this one. So bring that forwards, and now here for the arms, they do connect into two places. So one goes into this slot, and then the other tab pegs into this. Basically for combat mode, you're going to want to detach this and hinge this here all the way around until this section comes over and clamps it back into place. So do the same here for this side. Take this shoulder joint and bring this here all the way up, and then what I like to do is use this just to sandwich that joint into place. We can then ratchet these shoulders down, making sure that you do grip those pieces so they don't spring back up. Then we can collapse the turrets. Then you'll want to take this chest piece, and it doesn't tab in per se, it more or less just kind of rests alongside these pieces. You'll then want to rotate here at the forearms and then bend at the elbows, just like that. And here for the legs, this is where things actually become pretty funky. So you're going to want to bend backwards here at what was originally the knee joint. So bring that backwards, then bring this section around, and at the same time bend the foot backwards as well. So basically we've crumpled up one of his legs. Repeat the same process. So break the knee backwards, bend here at this section down, and then bring the foot around. Just make sure that he's nice and stable on the ground. And then for some finishing touches, take this massive saw blade, split it directly in the middle. And as I mentioned earlier on, when in robot mode, these do basically peg into some tabs here on the arms. So just snap that one in there. Come to this section, and personally I would recommend actually crumpling up this piece now, as it will be more difficult to do once you have it attached. And then this one also should snap there into place. And here we have Metroplex in his combat / worker mode, and I actually think this is a pretty sweet touch by the design team. It was something that they didn't have to incorporate into the transformation, but I'm really glad they did. Now as you guys can see, as far as that head sculpt goes, it does look incredibly different when in comparison to the version that we had earlier on, yet still retains the light piping. So if we do get a direct source of light behind that, as you can see, it will once again really bring this character to life. So I am hoping and praying that companies are fast at work in giving us some kind of LED upgrade kit for this figure, as I think it could be really cool. We do get the turrets here at the top, which look nice, and surprisingly some minicom ports, which I also thought was a really nice attention to detail. So we get 2 here. There are also various different mech tech ports scattered throughout this guy. As far as the chest goes, it looks cool, however it is missing a lot of paint that was featured on the back of the box, and considering that yet again this is our most expensive Titan yet, I do wish they could have spruced some of these pieces up with some red and gold, much like was originally shown. But nevertheless, the sculpt work definitely looks cool, and I do like the orientation that we now have here out of the weapons. So that massive saw blade here on one side, as well as the scoop on this one, and the legs actually compress quite a bit. So as you can see, there is a lot of compression that goes on for them. Now, articulation is basically the same here in this mode as it was in robot mode, although as I mentioned previously, the shoulders really like to detach more in this mode than any of the others. So for example, if you take this shoulder joint and just try and hinge this section up, as you guys can see, it will pull this panel way out of place. So again, I do recommend just getting a grip here at the back and then manipulating the arms, as those ratchet joints are just way too heavy duty for these friction joints to actually hold the shoulders into place. But overall, a pretty sweet looking mode, and once again was definitely a really nice touch and throwback to that original Transformers Cybertron toy. Now, comparison wise, despite Metroplex actually shrinking quite a bit, he's still way bigger than your average mainline leader and Voyager figure. So once again, we have him compared alongside the Cybertron Universe Optimus Prime and Override, and the tiny Core Class Kingdom Optimus Prime. Now, for transformation into his third and final mode, that being the Excavator, it's yet again fairly straightforward. So to kickstart things off, you'll want to remove the weapons, keep them into individual pieces, as you'll need that for later on in the conversion. So just set them here off to the side. What we can then do is take the head and this chest piece, pull this here forwards. You'll then want to take these sections, bring these also forwards, and basically revert the shoulders back into their original robot mode positions. So hinge that here all the way back, take this section, snap that there into place. Do the same here for this side. So bring this here all the way back, snap that there into place, and hinge that in like so. Now what we can do is rotate this entire assembly around, and then basically this chest piece will fold in and will tuck into a hollow cavity here at the back. You'll now want to flip the figure upwards and take the ankles, rotate these sections here down, do the same here for this side, straighten all of these out and bring them close into the middle, as what's going to happen now is you're going to use those hip joints to bring all of this here forwards, which can be easier said than done. So bring that forward, bring this section forward, and now you'll want to bend here at this joint so that basically it's sitting flush with the back of the heel spur. So do the same here for this side, bring that all the way down. That will then allow us to combine the two halves, take the treads, flip those out until they do click into place, and then recombine. You'll then want to shift this yet again as far up as it will go, and then what we'll do for the shoulders is actually rotate these sections here around until they're straightened out, and then pull the shoulder away from the body, hinge that out to the side, making sure that all of this is straightened out, rotate this section inwards, and then this tab will actually shoot into a slot under here. So just snap that there into place, come round here to this side, rinse and repeat. So rotate here at the shoulder, bring this section around, hinge this section in, bring this section around until that does click there into place. You'll now take these pieces, detach those, and these sections will peg here into these tabs. So do the same here also for this side, and then bring those weapons back in, just snap them there into place on both sides. And with all that being said, here we have a Metroplex fully transformed up into his enormous Excavator alt mode. And overall, truth be told, this looks okay. It's definitely not one of the better Titan class alt modes that we've seen, but is yet again a pretty nice update on the original Transformers Cybertron toy. And this, for the most part, was how Metroplex looked in that original show. Now granted, considering that Legacy appears to be stylizing and updating some of the characters in general, I maybe would have liked to have seen them put their own artistic approach touch on this alt mode just to make it look slightly cooler, as it never really looked great on the original toy, and to be fair, it didn't look that great on the original animation model either, so I do wish they could have spiced things up. But as far as a true to form version of Cybertron Metroplex goes, this is as cool and as strange looking as it gets. So as you guys can see, we get the massive blade here at the back which can rotate, and something which shocked me is that these are actually real vehicles. These actually exist in real life. We do get the turrets here on the side, we get the treads here at the base. Now this guy does actually have some proper working wheels, so a set on either side of the arms and then 4 individual wheels here. The actual treads themselves don't move, but it definitely does the job, so you can get this guy gliding along the ground. Of course, this scoop can ratchet down, you can open and close the claw, and for whatever reason these pieces too can also extend outwards if you wanted, so you could hinge those open. And for those who are into city formers, you can also take these panels, which I thought was a pretty nice callback to the War for Cybertron trilogy, hinge those out, and they do have that kind of connector base system that we saw with some of those weaponizers such as Ironworks, and I believe some of the Battle Masters also had this type of capability. So in all, it's cool. This piece does also rotate, although you can't get the full rotation due to this actually bumping in, and I also think it would have been pretty sweet had you been able to take this entire assembly and arch it down, so you could have actually got the blade itself mincing up the ground. But yeah, it's a cool looking alt mode. As far as comparisons go, here it is alongside the Kingdom Core Optimus, and it would have been cool had there been some kind of cockpit feature where you could have put the core class figures in the center or into some of these hollow cavities, but scale wise I think they look pretty decent. Here it is alongside the Cybertron Universe Siege Leader Optimus Prime, so this is way out of scale, but still is definitely a very massive piece. For one final comparison, here we have him alongside the Velocitron Override. And so, some final thoughts for the Transformers Legacy Titan class Cybertron Universe Metroplex. I think it's excellent that Hasbro are now offering collectors higher price figures which are not G1 orientated. For the longest time, Titan class has been pretty much exclusive to G1 characters, but that's all changed here with the introduction of Cybertron Metroplex, and if this figure sells well, I think we stand a good chance of actually seeing a Titan class tidal wave, and I would absolutely love that. But just in terms of Metroplex in himself, I think robot mode is fantastic. A great update, not only in terms of the design, but also the original toy. I definitely think they've kept all of the bells and whistles that you would expect from Metroplex. It is a shame that he doesn't have the Cyberplanet key, but we haven't seen those types of gimmicks on mainline figures for a very long time, and considering that he is our most expensive Titan, I definitely would have loved to have seen the inclusion of Drillbit, but I imagine they're saving him for either a deluxe or core class release later down the line. I think the articulation is flawless, one of the best articulated Titans we've seen. That massive excavator tool he uses is wicked. Granted, he can't hold it the best, but it still does look cool if you manage to get him wielding it. And transformation, very simplistic. I think the combat / worker mode is really cool. Glad that they did keep that in, as of course that was something that the original toy had. And then we turn to the excavator mode. Now, granted, whilst this is accurate to how it originally looked, I do wish they could have stylized this just a bit, just to spice it up and update the design, as, let's be honest, for a $200 figure, this doesn't look the greatest in its alt mode. Now granted, it looks how it's supposed to, but I personally just wish they could have spiced it up a little bit, had they just altered the design slightly. I just think it would have been really cool, as personally for me, I'll always be sticking this guy in robot mode. I have no desire to go to the alternate mode, as it is pretty pointless, and to be honest, you can't really do much with it other than roll it along the ground. But with all that being said, I guess it has more playability than your average city former. I'd love to know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Is Cybertron Metroplex a figure you guys plan on adding to the collection? And also be sure to let me know on what you guys thought of the review. As always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.